frequency WSTX. I am your host, Norman John Baptiste, also known as Baptiste, and it's good to be here with you this morning. There is much that I would like to share with you, those who are listening and viewing, whether it is by radio or by internet. Of course, this broadcast comes to you, across different platforms, if I may. We are broadcasting live on radio, and we're also streaming live on Facebook and a couple of other platforms out there, media platforms out there. But again, I want to welcome you to the program this morning. And like I said, there are many things I want to discuss with you, especially those of us who reside here in the Virgin Islands. Before I do that, with your indulgence, I want to ask you to join me in a word of prayer. Feel free to do so if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Lord, Creator Most High, we thank you that you know us, you love us, and you understand us. You are our keeper, our guide, and our provider. Thank you for granting us access to your presence within us and your presence all around us. Thank you for the blessings of the realms above and the realms below. Thank you for life. All right. I thought I should begin. I generally come here on Monday mornings and I recognize the presence of the Creator Most High, the influence of the Creator Most High in my life, in the life of others. And sometimes I tend to utter a word of prayer, if I may. But I do it from a personal standpoint. And this morning I thought I should take a collective approach. It's about us. It's not just about me as an individual. This program cannot be what it is intended to be unless we have the participation of all parties. It can't be just a one-man thing. I don't feel good when I'm out here hosting this program and I don't get responses, reaction, a connection that I can feel from others. So it's about us. It's not just about me. And so I wanted to take such an approach this morning. It appears to me that in this community, and perhaps even beyond this community, we seem to operate like a car, a vehicle that is out of alignment. When a vehicle is out of alignment, certain parts tend to wear down in an unequal fashion. Tires, for example. The tires tend to wear down, wear out on one side and not the other. So that one side is good, but the other side is in poor condition. And that doesn't lend itself towards having a smooth ride. In addition to that, there are other parts of the powertrain, if I may, I think that's what it's referred to, that would be affected by the mere fact that the vehicle is out of alignment. And so I see a similar situation, condition, if I may, with our community, where it appears that some of us are living a heavenly life while the rest are catching hell. Again, I want to repeat that. Some of us appear to be living a heavenly life whilst others are catching hell. That's not good for us. That's not good for us. I think we can do better if we find ourselves to be in agreement, to find common ground, to be of a parallel accord, if I may, we certainly can do better. I know we can do better. I have often said on this program that I attended a secondary school which had a motto saying, the motto was that we entered to learn and we departed to serve. And that's why I have chosen to live a life of service, service to my fellow human beings. And hence the reason why I am concerned about certain developments, certain issues that I observe in our community. This morning, I want to touch upon two items in particular. I want to speak about what I perceive to be educational misalignment, and I want to speak about governmental neglect of the less fortunate ones in our midst. But before I go there, let me just kind of like share with you why I decided to touch upon these two items this morning. I went to the post office in Kingshill. For those of you who do not reside in the Virgin Islands, who don't know too much about the Virgin Islands, and you're hearing this program this morning, we've got a central location, sort of on the island of St. Croix, because the Virgin Islands consist of St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, and Water Island, plus some cays in between. I went to the post office in Kingshill, which is just about central to the island of St. Croix. And whilst I sat in my vehicle, I observed a young woman walking past along the main road right in front of me. She passed by a colored young woman, black young woman, African, if I may. She must have been between the ages of, say, upper 20s to early 30s. And as she was pulling along a suitcase, and she had a bottle of water in her hands, she stopped momentarily, took some water to wash her face and take a sip. Then she dropped down in a sort of a squatting position right there, dropped her pants, and urinated right there, facing the roadway. She's right on the side of the road. In fact, she's between the parking area of the post office and the roadway. And boy, folks, that touched me deeply. And then when she finished, she just simply pulled up her pants and continued walking along, heading from south to north. She's moving from a southern direction and moving towards the northern direction. For those of you who reside on St. Croix, that means that she's coming from the Lorraine shopping center, where you also have the well, it used to be, well, actually, you have Lorraine Chicken Shack right there, and moving towards the Glen area. And I wondered to myself, what has this young woman in such a situation, such a condition? How did she find herself in that? Is she originally from St. Croix, or did she come from some other jurisdiction, has found herself on St. Croix in that condition? What is it that she has in the suitcase that she's holding along with her? I ask myself all of these questions. Who is she? She's got to be a sister, a daughter, perhaps even a mom to somebody. She's got to be a niece to someone. Who is she, and how did she find herself in that situation? And who really cares? Am I the first person making such an observation? Or others have seen that situation, and it's like we just don't give a rat's tail because it's not an immediate family member. And so after having witness that I said I've got to speak about that this morning on my radio program. And then, folks, I spoke to somebody on the mainland who told me about what he had seen about somebody running for governor who's offering $20,000, 25 between $20 and $25,000 to every registered voter. And I said I had not seen that information, but the person told me, asked me to check with VI Consortium. So I went on VI Consortium to read it. And once I got on the VI Consortium page, I happened to have come across a report of a Senate Education Committee meeting where they were discussing excessive or high absentee rate among students in the Virgin Islands. To the best of my recollection, the report indicated that St. Croix Central High School has an average of 75 students absent on a daily basis. There is one high school, I think Charlotte Amalie High School, has an average absence rate of about 68%. And there are several other schools that do have a high absentee rate. And then senators, in response to that, would prefer, one in particular says that the government should resort to draconian measures to deal with that. Lord have mercy, just give me a break there, let me deal with this. I need to turn off my phone. Sometimes it is good to keep my phone on whilst I'm on the program because last time I had an emergency situation to deal with, so I was able to forward a text to someone and ask them to handle that. And then there are other times when you should just have the phone turned off, and even if you put it on do not disturb, you still wouldn't get the calls coming in. But anyway, as I was saying, this one senator proposed resorting to draconian measures, such as holding parents liable, accountable, having parents charged with child neglect, possibility of taking away SNAP benefits and other social program benefits from those families. I found it sad that, that is the mindset of some of the people we elect to serve us in this day and age at such a time as now. And I'm going to tell you why. When you decide to take away SNAP benefits, social program benefits from parents who apparently have not had a mantle on guardianship of the children, you're creating a bigger problem because the children actually rely on the benefits, the social program benefits that those parents are receiving. So when you take away those benefits, you're actually hurting the child or children. Our senators thinking right when they recommend such things. And then the other recommendation, that parents should be charged with parental neglect. And by the way, the revelation came out that we don't even have truant officers out there to go to the homes. It is counselors, I forget the number of them, counselors they've got working in that area, who would make contact with school security, the school security force that comprise of some police officers to deal with the matter. Dysfunctions in the system. And I thought about all this and, how we're doing such a disservice to our people. And that's why I decided I would talk about our educational misalignment of goals, why I would talk about governmental neglect, etc. I, before I go to the line, because I've got some persons trying to reach me, before I go to the lines, let me just add one other thing quickly. People, even in terms of administration of the SNAP program or the social um, benefit programs that we have, it is so sad how families find themselves in a situation where SNAP benefits are restricted to just food items, nutritional items that you can purchase. And let me tell you why I say that. Women in particular have personal hygiene needs. For example, women have a monthly menstrual cycle where they've got to buy sanitary napkins. SNAP benefits can't buy that. Are we going to tell our young females who attend public school, who find themselves in that predicament where they have those needs, but they don't have the financial resources to address that? You telling me that we must now tell these young ladies that they have to revert to ages past when women had a kind of a cloth, whatever it was that they use it for about 2-3 days, then wash it and reuse it? Come on, people. I think we need to go beyond that to address the needs of our people. And I'm saying these females have certain needs and they don't have the financial wherewithal. So that perhaps we need to look at adjustments that can be made in terms of social benefit programs to address those needs. I got persons on the line. I got to go to the call. So I'll come back and pick up from there. All right, not this line. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning. How are you on this beautiful Monday, Saturday?
I'm doing fine, aside from the observations that I've made that I'm talking about this morning.
Okay, well, I wasn't listening to you, so you could give me a synopsis.
Well, very quickly, I came across a young lady this weekend as I went to the Kings Hill post office. She's about maybe late 20s, early 30s. She's African American, or just African, simply put. She was walking, holding a suitcase along. She had a bottle of water. She stopped momentarily on the side of the road, right in front of the post office where it was parked. She opened that bottle of water, washed her face, took a sip, and then she dropped her pants right there to urinate right on the side of the road before she proceeded to continue on a journey going from south to north, heading towards Glen. And that touched me significantly. I wondered, who is she? She's got to be somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, somebody's what have you along feminine lines. And how many persons have seen that besides me? And do we really care about those persons in our community who find themselves in such unfortunate circumstances? And the other thing, I had to talk, as a matter of fact, what I just said, that we don't always understand the needs of females. Females today have certain hygienic needs that males don't know about. For example, the young woman who has a menstrual cycle, she has to purchase sanitary napkins, and sometimes her financial wherewithal does not even allow her to do that. Yet we restrict the use of SNAP benefits and others so that she can't even find a way to buy her sanitary napkins. Are we going to tell her she must revert to the time in the past when women used to wear those cloth, whatever it was, and having to wash them every 2 or 3 days to reuse them? Is that what we're going to suggest? Come on, man. We got to find better ways and means of dealing with such emergencies, such recurring problems that our females have to deal with, and to give them some latitude, some leeway, whereby they can find the means to deal with these matters. And then we have the situation with a report online on Consortium where they're talking about high rates of absenteeism in our school. Central High School, 75 students absent on a daily basis. Charlotte Amalie about 68. And one senator proposing that we should take away SNAP benefits and other social program benefits from those families caught in such situations. Well, here is the.
Wait, that's a brilliant idea?
No, it is not. No, a senator suggested that. No, when you do that.
Who is the senator proposing that?
Hold on. When you do that, you're actually hurting the children in those families. That is not an option. And then the senator suggests that, parents be charged with parental neglect. And I'm saying again, you don't know the specifics, the mitigating factors that have led to that. To simply suggest or recommend such draconian measures, these are the kind of people who serve our people, who represent us in a legislature. Come on, man. I cannot sit back.
What can you say? Who is the senator proposing that? Because I would like to have a conversation with that senator.
If nobody calls in to mention the senator's name, perhaps I will. But for now, let me see who has been following the news. Those who have been on VI Consortium, who have seen it.
Please, mention a public servant who made a public statement.
He's from the St. Thomas. He is
not calling the person. I just would like to have a conversation with whoever that senator is to let them know that is not a good approach. This is my opinion.
He is from the
American.
Suffice it to be said.
Applies to me when it comes to the First Amendment right, freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just say that he is from the St. Thomas St. John district, and it's a he.
Okay. Well, that person may be out of touch with reality because the situation with the absenteeism, you don't know what single mother may be going through, dealing with mental health issues. That could be one factor of the mother, the child, or both. We saw recently in the St. Thomas, St. John district, a mother drowned her 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
She was experiencing psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand what that means. People are used the term crazy lightly. Psychosis is when you are totally out of touch with reality and you are not capable of making decisions because of your mental illness. She should not be punished. So what you want to punish her and say she's a murderer because she drunk her 9-year-old? No, you don't do that. That's not a solution.
Mm-hmm.
You have to address the individual cases, address the issue of mental illness in our territory, in the nation, period. You don't know. There might be extenuating circumstances why these children are being absent from school, but you automatically put in the blame on the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Talk them. Find out. Do a survey. Go into the community. Talk to them. Find out why. Because you may be surprised. The parents themselves might be pushing the child. You have some children, they are threatening the parents with bodily harm. We've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Where the mother took away the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And she the one that arrested. So you recall that case, right?
Yep.
Okay. The children today, many of them, not all, many of them are out of control and the parents need help.
Mm-hmm.
Not to punish them.
And let me just interject here that from my personal observation, YRC is not the best option.
But where you gonna put them?
Well, I'm just saying that
they're not listening to the parents.
Yeah, and that's difficult because when you have say like a 16-year-old who stands 6 feet 2 inches above a single mother who is like 5 feet.
And it's usually mother, the one that provided the most love and affection to them.
Uh-huh.
Because they're more vulnerable.
Yeah. So these are some.
They're weaker.
Yep.
But if it was a male, a parent, the father, I bet you won't try them things.
No, but these are some of the.
Advantage of the most vulnerable in our society.
True.
The elderly, the physically handicapped, the mentally disabled. And no, that's not, I'm sorry. I'm going to find out who that senator is to have a conversation because they represent all of us. Whether they come with regardless of what district they voted from. They are senators representing the entire territory. And I know this upcoming weekend is going to be a politically charged one. The teams coming out because see who running for who. That's the chance people interact with them. See who can come and talk to you, who have that humbleness that you can approach and tell them, these are my concerns. This is what I'd like addressed. You know? I know it's a political cycle. I want people to remind people our situation. We're still an unincorporated territory. Don't conflate the issues of being a constitution and political status. What's on the table now is the Constitution. And I am not going to bash the delegates. I don't represent them. I don't speak on nobody's behalf. However, I have invited delegates numerous times, public invitation, open invitation, to come on my show and tell us what's going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's me. I don't know. But I am ignored. Totally ignored. And all I'm trying to do is to have the people educated, enlightened, and inspired. Because we are in this together. You see what's happening in the day? You see what this Trump has done? He's portraying the Obamas as monkeys, unintelligent creatures. And then you heard the latest one he did. He disinvited the only black governor in the nation, the governor of Maryland. You heard about that?
He's not the only black governor in the nation. We have a black governor right here in this territory.
Okay, well, you're right. In one is of the 50 states. You're correct. And that should be mentioned. Yes. And also, we have a governor of the other unincorporated territories. And I'm assuming they're not European descent.
Right.
I'm assuming they are people of color. Indigenous in some cases, maybe in Guam, I don't know, the Chomaras here. And you have the American Samoa. You have the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, our neighbor. It's still an unincorporated territory. That's its official title, Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. But you hear it by saying, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, that's on paper. Just like with the U.S. Virgin Islands. The official title is the Virgin Islands of the United States. But it's acceptable to say the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's unofficial. So what? So everybody refers to it as the U.S. Virgin Islands, right? Because we have the British Virgin Islands. And then you have the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. They have governors too, right? Don't they elect governors?
Yes, they
and
do.
delegate to Congress? Okay. So that's an insult to the nation. Because America was built on immigrants, the blood, the sweat, and the tears. The immigrants and the enslaved is what helped to build America. The enslaved physically built the White House. And they tried to whitewash the history. This is Black History Month. They tried to whitewash. I mean, how much more blatant this man could be? And you tell that Trump supporters here in the territory, oh, he's the best thing since sliced bread. Can they see? This man is a white supremacist.
Well, here is the thing. I've always stressed that we respect the office of the president. We can, of course, disagree with the policies being advanced by the president, but we always respect the office of the president.
Exactly, we got respect.
Now, what's what's unfortunate here is that the president did what he did, and then when the pushback came along, you had a number of Republicans who went against him for what he did, but you still had I think the White House press secretary trying to defend the president in that matter. And so it behooves us to take a second look. Those of us who are Africans, we need to take a second look at this situation, this issue, and to tell it like it is. I think he was totally disrespectful, and you cannot expect to have any level of mutual respectability if you're not prepared to be respectful of others, you know? And so that's unfortunate that we've come to that. But I would ask us here in the Virgin Islands.
And he is unfortunately trying to whitewash, erase the history, the accomplishments of great minds such as the former president of Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
But he could never rise to that level of intelligence,
mm-hmm.
brilliance, education,
mm-hmm.
integrity.
Mm-hmm.
He could never rise to that level. And if he's representative of white supremacy, my God, that's the best he could produce.
Well, here is what I want to share with you.
Oh my goodness.
Here is what I want to share with you and Virgin Islanders who are listening. I would ask us to be in control in our minds, be in control of our mindset. You are the king sitting in your mind, and you don't allow people who get involved in buffoonery and such matters or issues to get to you. You know, it's one thing to be walking down the street and somebody throws some stupid slide remark at you and you begin to engage that person. It's another thing to rise above the slide remark and just continue about your business. When you engage people who get down low in the gutter, then you are submitting to their superiority.
You drop to their depth.
Exactly. So sometimes we have to find more intelligent and prudent manner in which to deal with those persons. And that's what I would recommend to us as a people here in the Virgin Islands, as a people, Africans in the diaspora. Don't let such actions from the president bring us down into the gutter. Let's be about that.
Yeah, we don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I always think of the words, this etches my memory, the message that Michael Stringer wanted us to accept and embrace. Small minds talk about people, medium minds talk about events, great minds talk about ideas. And that's what I like to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about the governor and this and that and whatever, but my focus is ideas and how we could make this place a better place. And not everybody can be elected as a senator, but we could all play a role.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in pursuing no political office.
Mm-hmm.
I think I find my calling, and that is to educate.
Mm-hmm.
And although I am retired, I still continue public education.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to elaborate, and I don't have much time on your show, but I want to invite you and other people from the community to come to my show, because one of the things I want to ask them is as a citizen of the Virgin Islands or resident of the Virgin Islands, what concerns they have, what part they're playing to address those, and of course, what priorities they believe this current administration should address, as well as the incoming, because we will get a potential elected governor.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect everybody's choice.
Mm-hmm.
I am not endorsing any candidate, because I want everybody to know they have an invitation to my show, because I want to find equal playing field to communicate to the people and tell us what you're doing now as a Virgin Islander to make the Virgin Islands a better place. And I want to elaborate on the Shanti project. I mentioned it, not just briefly. We need some way to enhance Virgin Islands pride and make people feel like they are part of it. They're in this together. And to connect all the 4 islands, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, and Wat Island, we're in this together. So I believe every Shanti should be named. I call it Shanti for number. Like you said earlier, maybe another term would be more appropriate. But for now, every Shanti should be named after a native Virgin Island who is a community activist. But it could be more than that. It's to preserve our history, to have the official symbols, the flower, the flag, the dish, the fabric, the music, etc. And also to get that day to promote Virgin Islands Pride, because it would be more than just the Shanti being named in someone's honor. That person would be the guardian and to ensure that they get community assistance in keeping the area free of litter and beautifying it and so forth. So I am promoting that. I want to stay on the positive end. I want to live positive, speak positive, talk about ideas how we could be a better Virgin Islands, and tell people, you're just as important as a senator, an elected official. So we could do our part, but it's up to us. We need to be more civic-minded. Don't wait for the government. We could learn how to teach ourselves Virgin Islands history. This is Black History Month, which incorporates Virgin Islands history, because most of the people that we pay tribute to were people of African descent, like what's his name, Jackson. And I forget his first name. Hamilton Jackson, right? David Hamilton Jackson, yes. David Hamilton Jackson and Hood. So that's part of the Black history. And I would hope to start this month, we focus on that, giving a tribute to our people here. And when I say our people, I am not being divisive. I mean our people, meaning people from the diaspora who can trace their lineage to Africa. Okay, and you got some of them white too. I could trace lineage to Denmark too, my great grandfather. However, we need to show that appreciation for Africans' contribution to the Americas. They were there. They were from the old world. Maybe they'll visit here. I don't know. You see them, they Almex heads in Mexico. Don't know that the Africans to you. Mm-hmm. Maybe they were in Africa, in Mexico. They were there. They DNA mixed. So that's why you say every Black man is an African. Well, maybe I have a point here, because listen, they said the cradle of civilization is in Africa, right? And the first men were Africans, right? And the Sans people, the Bushmen, the Bush people, they're one of the oldest surviving civilizations. And the Aboriginal of Australia, the Aborigines of they can trace their history way back. Before Europeans.
Let me share this with you. I saw a clip where Minister Farrakhan, addressing that issue, says to a Caucasian, or the Caucasians rather, we can make you, but you can't make us. And he's absolutely right. You can have two Africans producing offspring that turn out to be so-called white, the child that they refer to as an albino. And when you look at migration patterns and the impact of climate on individuals, you can see how an albino child can come to look like a purebred Caucasian. However, Caucasians cannot produce individuals like Africans.
Right.
So, Minister Farrakhan
you had a couple? This couple in Great Britain that had a child, and they said the child is not a albino. The child came out different from all the rest of their children, and both parents dark skin. And the children, the other siblings dark skin, and this child, the last child, they had a girl. It's in England. Blonde hair, straight blonde hair, and blue eyes.
That's
and
not.
They said the child is not an albino.
Listen to me. That's unusual. I know of a child, well, actually two girls. When I grew up as a child, they were children around, and they had blonde hair. They were white, and their eyes looked almost like a grayish blue. But their parents were dark people, African people, and they were born in such a manner. Of course, eventually one of them migrated to England with her mother. The other one, I don't know why they allowed her to remain in St. Lucia. But these were albino children, and if you saw the picture of the one who migrated to England later on in life, she looked like an ordinary Caucasian lady. So let's not be fooled. And I can take you back to a little bit of biblical history to demonstrate where, from the colored race, we came to have the Caucasians. And that's not to push a narrative of any kind of racism. I'm just being realistic in terms of things that I have read, what I have studied, that have led me to such a conclusion or determination.
Well, you heard it came through with it, the South African white couple, and they have white children, except for the daughter. They got boys, the 3 boys, and 1 daughter. And things were okay in the beginning until she started to grow, and they changed her to colors. They got different categories. And her own family abandoned her because she turned out black.
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar with this case.
No infidelity thing. They did the DNA test. She's probably still alive. She would be in her 60s.
Wow.
And she is probably alive. She came out black. As she grew, in the beginning they didn't notice it, but as she grew, she took on more of a dark, different features. Even her own father, her mother, they abandoned her. But it proved that it was her father, the DNA test. So it can happen. And recently I saw on Facebook an interracial couple. They had twins. They had fraternal twins. One come out dark like the father, and one come out white like the mother. Okay, it can happen.
I want to get take your sentiment on a situation here. We're not having the rights that they used to have at the ag fair. They're not having the rights. And I met a couple of parents who said that one of the reasons why their children wanted to go to the ag fair is because of the rights. But since the rights are not present, the children don't show an interest in going to the ag fair. Now, the ag fair, we know, has a very captive, or presents a captive audience. Yet, we've had restrictions in terms of the rights, and there are certain products that traditionally they've not allowed at the ag fair because they feel that these are not locally produced items. For example, they're not allowed to sell sodas, at the ag fair. because that,
Right.
that competes with locally produced juices and other beverages,
Yes.
which makes sense. So I'm asking you now, do you think it should be allowed that political activists, especially political candidates, be allowed to come to the ag fair with a ton load of supporters dressed in their t-shirts? Yes, it's a captive audience, but do you think that in some way might take away from the real importance and what should be observed and noted at the ag fair?
No,
It doesn't. All right. I just wanted
I
your.
think it's okay. It's acceptable in my book.
All right.
And I'm looking forward to it. The other excitement. We're going to see the colors green, blue, orange, blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, the Virgin Islanders, they're not more important than me
Mm-hmm.
because they need our support
Mm-hmm.
in order to get elected. They
Mm-hmm.
need, they need votes. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
All right.
I just believe we should use that opportunity since they're going to be in that kind of mood. All of a sudden, they're friendly, they're humble, they want to have a talk with you.
Mm-hmm.
But seize the moment to have a conversation with them
Mm-hmm.
because putting all that stuff in a pamphlet, no. And making campaign promises, no.
So it would so then it would have been wiser to have some kind of a coordinated activity in conjunction with the Board of Elections, whereby they could even sit down and have a kind of a mini forum, question them, then let people come by to that
Well, it's
sector
not too late.
and
Maybe
ask
you
some
listen-
questions.
Maybe you listen to your show, they won't listen to mine. So I'm saying we could come up with ideas of how we could interact with them
Mm-hmm.
and offer our support, but not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean who you're going to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
Because, your vote is sacred and confidential.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I am adamant against anybody having their votes be seen by somebody else's eyes. I know no name is on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, I prefer, to me, it adds more security and confidentiality when I put my paper ballot into the tabulator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want nobody else on it. Just me. I only want my eyes on it and my hands on it. So I look at it that way, and I am saying nobody's going to know who you vote for because when you go into that booth, you're in there by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you have people who making disparaging remarks when you say who you're voting for. You shut down that blah blah blah. I know the voters are stupid, the voters are this. We gotta respect the person's choice. You vote for who you think is the best candidate. I don't tell people I know what I'm looking for. You don't have to be looking for the same thing, and it definitely ain't good look. I look for intelligence, educational level, the ability to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not endorsing anybody because I want to be able to talk to any candidate. Of course, everybody's entitled to their feelings. There's some people, I don't care what they're running for. God Tessa, they'll never get my vote. But I don't pretend that I'm supporting them. I'm not going to tell them I'm voting for you when I know full well that's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't want to have a conversation with any candidate. I would want to analyze and vet for myself because I don't have three lists. Definite yes, definite no. The definite yes is the shortest list. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then under consideration is in between. Okay, the other next shortest is the definite no.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of the year, I make up my mind. I gonna be following you every move you make, everything you do. Before that final day, when I make my decision, when I cast my ballot, I know I'm doing it because I have vetted my candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not influenced by nobody else. I'm doing my own research. I'm doing my own interaction. So again, and I want you to come on my show. I'm inviting you as well because I want to know what are the priorities that should be considered and what solutions people have to
Mm-hmm.
these concerns. Who interested in coming to my show, I am putting out a public in. Do you mind if I give my phone number if you want to text me?
Go ahead.
Okay, 340-513-0228. If you're interested in being a guest, whether you're running for public office or not, a Virgin Islands citizen or resident, I want to hear from everybody who wants to a better Virgin Island. So again, 340-513-0228 if you wish to be invited to At the Table with Fusion Educator, Tuesdays 8 to 9. So thanks for the time, appreciate it, and you keep up the good work. I think you're doing a fantastic job as a community activist.
Well, thank you for the kind words and thank you for joining me this morning and sharing with the audience and the viewers.
Thanks, bless.
All right, be blessed. Stay strong. Mm-hmm. All righty. Let me just backtrack a bit and to touch upon some of the things that I started off talking about this morning. And I'm doing that because, well, in light of the fact that the last caller did mention that she didn't hear my opening presentation. And she asked me if I could have given her just a brief synopsis of what I discussed earlier on. And so I want to get back to that. I mentioned that I came across a couple of items this weekend that had me thinking about educational misalignment in the territory and governmental neglect of those who are less fortunate in our midst. I mentioned in particular what I read on VI Consortium after someone from the States asked me if I had seen certain things. I got there to double check what the individual was saying, and then I came across that. And then I perhaps can take a little time later on to speak about that other item which the individual told me about. But then when I went to Consortium, I read about the high rate of absenteeism with our high school, well, all of our schools in the territory, not just the high schools, but Central High School was mentioned in particular with a 75 daily average of students being absent. And I think Charlotte Amalie High School had approximately 68 students absent on a daily basis. That's the average number. And then I had this personal observation, situation, encounter with a young female, probably aged between, well, upper 20s to early 30s, who was walking along that stretch of roadway going past the Kings Hill post office. She was pulling a suitcase along. She had a bottle of water, a plastic bottle, one of those, like, what's it, like 16 ounces. She stopped to take a sip, to take some water to wash her face, and then dropped her pants right there on the side of the road and urinated. Then she got up, pulled up her pants, and continued walking, heading from south, going north. And it touched me because that's someone's daughter. That is someone's sister. That is someone's niece. That is someone's relative, someone's family member. And I asked the question, what might have gotten this young lady into that situation? Um, Based upon my discussion with my wife and daughter, she could not have been mentally sound. And even if she is mentally sound, she's experiencing some kind of temporary disconnect, if I may. Because what she did just doesn't add up. It doesn't fit with our normally accepted social modes of conduct. And so I thought I wanted to speak about that this morning. To talk about how some of us, we are living a heavenly life, whilst there are some of us who are catching hell. And then I segued into what I have seen happening with education and the responses that come from some senators, elected people, given misguided, ill-informed solutions, if I may, to our existing problems in education. And I spoke about the one senator who recommended that we deal with a high rate of absenteeism in our schools by charging parents with parental neglect or by taking away social program benefits from them, such as SNAP. And I think that's ill-advised. I think it's misguided. I think it's draconian. And it's a real letdown to see a senator recommending or suggesting such. I think the senator obviously didn't take time to review all of the parameters that encircle such behavior, that lead to such behavior. When you take away social program benefits from a family that's going through such a situation where children either don't want to go to school or children find themselves being absent because of mitigating circumstances, and those families are already families who are financially challenged, families who need social program benefits, and you're going to take that away from them, you're bringing more harm to the children. You're hurting the very children who need help, who need assistance. And hence the reason why I say that kind of recommendation is ill-advised. It has not been studied carefully. And then to further recommend that parents should be charged with parental neglect without taking into consideration that there may be mitigating factors as to why that situation exists in the families. Again, I'm saying that, either these guys have not studied the matter thoroughly, or if the staff have looked at the situation, the staff has given them wrong advice. And that's sad. I have tied that into the situation of a car that is out of alignment. When a car is out of alignment, the wheels wear down on just one side. Half the tire is good, thread is practically still new, and the other side is gone. And that happens fast. In a matter of a couple of months, putting new tires on your vehicle, it begins to wear down in an uneven fashion because the vehicle is out of alignment. Being out of alignment allows also for other aspects of the drivetrain to go bad, and again in an uneven fashion. And I said, this is what happens when we have societal dysfunctions. when our community finds itself being out of alignment, that there is a disconnect between those in leadership and those who are represented by those in leadership. There is a disconnect in terms of our daily experiences. You know, some of us are catching hair, and some of us are living high off the hog. And that's not how it was meant to be. So, as a result, I'm saying that we need to find the common ground. We need to find ourselves in agreement, in alignment, so that we can identify the real issues, so that one can feel the brother's pain, the sister's discomfort, and one can somehow open up the bowels of mercy, if I may say that, to reach out and address the predicament of those who are less fortunate. Even when I looked at this situation where the senator made such remarks about taking away benefits, specifically SNAP benefits, from a family that finds itself in crisis, where children aren't attending school as they should, I thought about the disparities that exist in our communities that go beyond what we just observe in a superficial manner, but disparities in terms of what females go through as opposed to what the males go through. Our females have some pretty difficult issues to deal with. I mean, they're wired to be able to cope with these things. But I'm saying we live at a time, and I'm going to get into a little bit of education here. We live at a point in time when women no longer do things how they did it maybe some 50, 60 years ago. 50, 60 years ago, when a young woman had her menstrual cycle, those families used a cloth device, which was used perhaps for a day or two, and then it was washed to be reused again. Maybe they had 2 or 3 of these things. That's what the young ladies had. Today, we've come to a point where young females use disposable sanitary napkins or other devices that they have. I don't even know what they are. And I'm saying many of our families today, it's with pains, they come up with the money to buy these things. And the SNAP benefits that they get, they cannot use the SNAP benefits to purchase these things. Yeah, you ever give some thought to that? What mothers and fathers have to go through when they're jobless, and all they're getting is some SNAP benefits, and maybe they're getting something to help with rental assistance, and they have to come up with some money to provide for these, side necessities, if I may. I got to buy some shoes for the children to go to school, and I have to buy new underwears and new socks for them to wear. And we also have to make provisions for the monthly cycle that the girls have to go through. And yet, I have no money coming in. I'm relying on those social programs, but I can't use the benefits from these programs. I can't use the proceeds from SNAP to buy any of these things. We don't take time to think about these things. We think it's all smooth sailing for everybody in the community. But folks, there are people in the community who go through some pretty difficult times. And I'm saying we need to re-engineer the way in which we think to make for better agreement, better alignment of our goals, our objectives in our communities. Going back to the education business, and I often have said it on this program and other programs, that I have an orientation that drives me to be of service because of the motto of the secondary school that I attended. I went to school to learn, I departed to be of service. So I want to serve. I take pleasure in serving, in rendering service to my community. I find pleasure. One of the things that I learned when I took courses in teacher training was that educators must know how to embrace the principle of adaptation. In other words, as you go along, you may have to adapt to certain things. You will have to make certain changes because the circumstances that you find yourself in, they have changed. And so we had this thing called the saber-tooth curriculum, which basically said that there was a time when people lived off of a saber-tooth tiger. They caught the tiger for food, and they had their ways and means of catching the tiger. But then the tiger became extinct. And so now they have to find a new source of food. So they turned to the waters where there were fish, and they're trying to catch fish. But they were trying to catch fish using the same method they were using to catch the tiger. Didn't work. Couldn't work. And it took a senior voice of reason in the community to tell them, listen, now this thing isn't going to work. You've got to change that method that you use to catch the tiger so you can catch some fish. It may be a similar approach, but with a slightly different bend to it. And so that by making the necessary adaptation, they were able to use whatever instruments they had to modify them so they can now use those instruments to catch fish as opposed to trapping or catching the saber-tooth tiger. And so in education today, the world of learning today is not what it used to be 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's a different kettle of fish. And so educators now have to become resourceful, they have to become creative, they have to adapt their approach. And there are case studies I don't have the time to get into right now, but there are case studies of adaptation made or being made even currently in the field of education so as to capture the interest of children, to get them motivated, to get them to want to be in school to learn. So that in those places where those changes have been made, where new approaches are being incorporated, and children get up in the morning, and I know of some cases personally. Children get up in the morning zestfully preparing themselves to get to school because they want to be in school. They enjoy the learning experiences in school. And I'm saying that if we would just incorporate those approaches here in the territory, we might be able to make an impact in terms of reducing the rate of absenteeism in our schools. Let me hear what this caller has to say. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, the Honorable Man of God, Senator Baptiste. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How about you? How are you doing?
Man, I'm blessed and highly favored, man. I'm feeling good today, Senator Baptiste.
It's good to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
What have you got to share with us this morning?
Yeah, I just want to also follow back up on that. As we were talking about what is wrong with the people in their mind frame and why they got the thoughts and the spirits that they have to, make the decision they have. What's wrong with them? And, when I talk about reparations and restitution, I just want to make this very, very clear. I'm not talking about reparations and restitution for many of these so-called civil rights leaders who have led us into that burning house. I'm not talking about the Sambo. I'm not talking about, the coons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about them. And we want to get our reparations for the ones that cleared the swamp land with their bare hands and, was out there chopping that sugar cane, who don't have the mental capacity or the education to know how to tell the story right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the keeper of the flame is. This is the story of our ancestors, that it was able to be preserved through words and through our storytelling when we were stripped from all our culture, dehumanized, to be called another name and to be walking another way, that we were able to preserve this, that the ancestors taught us that even though they might take our bodies, they can't take our spirit and our mind. So this is who the keeper of the flame is. These are the stories of the keeper of the flame. These are not the stories that you're going to read in a book. These are the stories of the ancestors that's buried in the unmarked grave, as Christian Shane Hendricks is currently right now in that unmarked grave. So as I traveled through my journey, and I was human trafficked as a young child, a lot of people try to tell me that I pick cotton. But I'm like, man, we ain't grow cotton down in the Virgin Islands. We have sugar cane. So I always knew that it was something different in me, and all the history that they was trying to tell me, it just wasn't adding up to me, because when I go into dreamland and when the ancestors come to me, what they have installed in me to preserve and protect our history and our culture that we trailblazed to do, it just don't match up. So my football coach was my history teacher and my studies teacher, and he wasn't asking me about what was in our history book. He was asking me about St. Croix and Kentucky. So the keeper of the flame was already having to tell our unmatched St. Croix cruising culture, and wherever I went, they had to all come together, because we are the founding fathers of America, who wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. It was our sugarcane and rum that went to the Battle of Gettysburg. Who do you think Denmark Dixie is, and where he come from, and what he was doing in Charleston, South Carolina? And when I talk about the place called Haiti in North Carolina, where Duke University has buried it and trampled over that town, it was because of those black slaves knew, and the history and the honor they wanted to show us to our ancestors in Haiti, who led the most successful slave revolt against these white boy most greatest general, Napoleon. So out of the honor of our ancestors and all the kingdom and monarchs that they built in Haiti, we cleared that swampland in North Carolina and built the town called Haiti in honor of our ancestors, to keep the connection. Mm-hmm. And if anybody knows Savannah, Georgia, downtown Savannah, Georgia, they have statues of the Haitian soldiers who came and fought during the Revolutionary War. Mm-hmm. So as we tell these stories and use these words, we're going to connect this flame from what our ancestors did in that holy cross, Senator Baptiste, mm-hmm. of St. Croix, being the only island in the entire Caribbean that has that, and this is the son that was born in the Virgin on the island of St. Croix, the umbilical cord, mm-hmm. the one that was born on the bayside. Mm-hmm. See, am I in that book? Am I in Harold Willock's book? No, but I'm the keeper of the flame. Mm-hmm. Harold Willock knows this is the true story. Mm-hmm. Can't nobody take that away from me. Mm-hmm. The judge, Alfonso Andrews, knows who the true keeper of the flame is. Mm-hmm. See, my mom didn't come from America, and my dad came from. All of my ancestors is St. Croix all St. Croix. Miss Jessica, the time mother of the first cruiser and culture queen, because of Baptiste. And I was very offended. I was very offended that during the Christmas time when they were talking about how our cruiser and culture started, that they would connect that my ancestors put paint on their face and they was jumping up and down like the monkeys dancing for the white people as a way, and that's how our tradition started. Senator Baptiste, our queen, Miss Jessica, the time mother, is not going to put no face paint on her face to hide anything. She is the queen. She's going to be dressed in royalty. And we're going to go down that thing just as we supposed to, because we the one that worked this land, and we the trailblazers that invented this cruising culture. It wasn't coming from no Mango Jones. It wasn't coming because St. Thomas decided to make one before you. We always have a unique, separate, different identity and way of life and culture. And this was the time that our ancestors came from out the sugarcane plantations, and we had an opportunity to buy our own land, to make our own money, to save our money, and purchase our money so we could walk around like the kings that we are. And we got a sense of pride and dignity. We're not the slaves no more. So this was the greatest threat to America and to the CIA and the FBI, to have these people show the resilience of our ancestors as we built the pyramids and Timbuktu, and as Imhotep did the first open heart surgery and brain surgery.
If I may,
we have continued to show that we are the chosen ones, and we are the ones that's the keepers of the flame. So
if I may,
Senator Baptiste, I thank you, brother, for your honor and your courage.
Thanks for calling and sharing with us. And if I may, I just want to applaud your level of resilience, your determination to share the history of your people, and the pride that you show towards your ancestors. I want to just simply add here that if you combine all of what you're saying, along with the revolt of 1848 here on the island of St. Croix, and how those folks at that time, they were united in purpose, and that purpose was to seek freedom, justice, and equality for the people. And if we can somehow translate that desire in this modern time that we're living in, so that we can become unified as a people, united as a people, as we move forward to address the social and economic ills that plague us, and to make things right for one and for all. It should mean that some catching hell, whilst others are living a life of heavenly bliss. So I want to thank you.
Thanks, Senator Baptiste. I love you, man. I appreciate this. I value your commitment to being a man of honor and a man of God.
Right. Thanks for sharing with us. You stay strong. Keep the faith. Be blessed. Bye. All right. And I know that. Okay. Well, there was some. All right. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. Hello, caller. Good morning. Welcome. Hello. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Thanks. That caller, he calls and talks about black people and this and that. But then he turns around and bashes, because that's the first black woman to be on the Supreme Court, John G. Jackson, for when she was being questioned. One of the Congress people asked her what's her definition of a woman. And she said that, well, she wouldn't give one because it's not her profession, it's not her expertise. And she would, ask a biologist. And he bashes her for that. But it turns out she was absolutely right. The press, they asked the same congressperson what was their definition of a woman. And they had to call their office 3 times to finally get them to give a definition. So the person who asked the question, they themselves didn't know how to define a woman. And when you talk to, and we have an article about it, that when they talk to biologists were saying, yes, there's about 5 different things that you can look at. But looking at just one of them can't give you that definition. It's a complicated, it's not a simple thing. You could have female or sex organs, but have different chromosomes. Your testosterone level could be different. Your testosterone level could be like a man. There are a bunch of different things. So you can't just look at one thing and define that person as a woman. And we should know this because they've had the cases of the Olympics. That African runner who beats all kinds of people in the marathons. But when, and you know, she kind of looks a little bit managed, but you could see that she's a woman.
So then let me ask.
So levels are slightly higher than the average woman.
So let me ask.
And they were making her take drugs to lower it, and she was like, "No, this is not right." And I think she eventually won There was where was she from? Somewhere in Africa, North Africa.
You're talking about the woman Simena?
A boxer?
Are you talking about the woman Simena, the long distance runner?
No, well, that's the first person I was talking about. But then there was of late, there was in the last Summer Olympics, there was a female boxer from North Africa, so like Algeria, Morocco, somewhere along those lines. And she was winning all her matches, and people were saying that she was a man, and she was like, "No, I'm a woman." And the test that they did showed that she was a woman, but you could see she had some man qualities to her, and which was allowing her to demolish the other female boxers.
So then let me ask you.
It's not a complicated, it's not a simple thing. You might want it to be, but clearly science and just our experience of human experience tells us it is not a simple thing.
So let me ask you, as we approach life, even today, we tend to refine our definition of things. So don't you think it would have been more appropriate to ask of the judge, what do you consider to be the biological definition of a woman, as opposed to?
But it's not her expertise, though.
No, but hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying to you. Hear what I'm saying. I may agree with that, but hold on, my brother. Hear this here. If somebody came to me and asked me and said to me, what's your definition of a woman? I certainly can prefer a definition based upon traditional.
But not if you're going to be a judge. You're supposed to be neutral. You're supposed to wait on the facts that are brought to you. You're not. This is not an average job. You're not supposed to be biased, and you're supposed to go where the science and the facts lead you. So she was absolutely right for what she was be nominated for. She was absolutely, that response was absolutely correct. She wasn't a chemical engineer. She wasn't an owner of a supermarket. She was going to be a judge. And so she was right. This is something complicated. This is something that I would rely on the experts to tell me what it is. And that's what judges are supposed to do. They don't know. They rule on all different kinds of cases, but they're not experts in those areas. They rely on the expert testimony that comes in.
Don't you think that senators also have an obligation to rely on expert testimony when they're dealing with matters that are not related to?
That's what they should be doing, rather than shooting from the hip. And that's why we end up in a lot of mess, because a lot of them want to be experts on areas that they don't have training, they don't have experience, they're not experts in those areas. They're supposed to be doing just like a judge, talking to the experts, and then coming to whatever conclusion and decision they're in. But apparently there was a number of people, elected officials, Congress people, who were criticizing her, and when the reporters asked them what their definition, not a single one of them could give an adequate definition.
I didn't.
Because it's not their expertise.
Yeah, well, let me just say that I wasn't privy to the exchange, but I don't think that I would be afraid to render my personal position or determination on any subject matter. And of course, that would be subject to
But
modification
you're
based
going up to being a judge.
well, I'm not saying,
Yeah,
not
so,
necessarily.
so now you're going to have to recuse yourself from cases of which you've
I,
already said what your decision was.
it
Before
depends.
there's any of the evidence.
It depends on
That's not what a judge is supposed to do.
yeah, but hear me out. It depends on the parameters of a case that comes up before you. You might have preferred a definition at one point in time, but now that you're sitting as a judge, of course, you have to weigh all the evidence being presented.
And if you're smart and have experience as a judge, you would realize not to put yourself in that box,
Alrighty,
not to paint yourself in that corner.
alrighty. I don't. Well, like I said, I
In a
don't.
public, very public way.
Mhm.
So she was absolutely on point with her response.
Mhm. All right.
Now, it's not a no-brainer like, oh, do you, are you against murder? Of course, well, yeah, any judge, that would be, no, yeah, that would be a yes, I'm against it. But defining a woman?
Hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it a minute. Hold it a minute. Let me hold on.
Definition
Hold on. Let me ask you. What is your definition of murder?
of murder
Mm-hmm.
is when somebody kills another person for unjustifiable reason.
Okay. So
So beyond self-defense, or
So-
something again that might be justifiable.
so let me ask you. Let me ask you another question. At what point do you
What?
determine that someone is a person?
If they have the biology that biologists determines to be people,
Mm-hmm.
again, I would go with what the experts. I'm not an expert in that. There are all kinds of species. I would use the definition or the way biologists, the experts in that area, come to their conclusion, because they have, while I've been doing other things, this is what they've been studying, and so I would give them that respect, unless there is something that is really, really, not that's showing me that something is they didn't get something right.
Okay.
There
So
has to be something very contradictory before I'm going to go against the experts.
so given what you've said, is there a point where we can consider the abortion of a baby in the womb to be murder?
Well, see, that's the thing. The biologists and the experts haven't come up with as to when life begins. If they come up with the life begins at this stage, and then somebody kills them, then you would say yes. But the problem is they haven't come to a conclusion among the experts, among the biologists.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't come to a conclusion as to exactly when life begins.
So then let me ask you another
And that's
question.
why abortion is legal in the United States, because they haven't decided that so like people want to say, oh well, by conception,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's an embryo. It
Mhm.
doesn't have the human functions. It can't survive on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So the biologists are conclude, well, no, that you can't say it's there because that thing is not like what we define as a human.
Okay, granted, but we do know that there are certain characteristics of what we call living things, so that we can look at a
Yeah,
cockroach.
but that
We can,
applies to bacteria.
well, now you can look at
So
you
if
can look
you're
at cockroaches.
bacteria, are you doing abortion?
Wait, hold on. Well, we look at a cockroach. A cockroach is alive, but there is justification for killing cockroaches.
Because they're not human.
Well, okay, they're not human, but then there are characteristics they display that we say that they're alive. And so if you look at
Could be living but not human.
okay, but okay, I agree with you.
Millions of different species.
I am in agreement with you, but I'm saying that if we look at a developing child in the womb, there is a point where the child is breathing, albeit through the umbilical cord, but the child is being fed, the child is receiving oxygen, the child is actually moving in the womb. So don't tell me that we cannot make a determination that at a certain
I'm
point.
saying that there is, I said, yes, there's a point where you can make that determination, but it's not at conception. It's not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months. So 3 months and below, there's debate among biologists. And in fact, I don't even know if there is a debate among biologists, because that's not a living thing. It cannot survive on its own, and it doesn't have the other characteristics of what we call human.
Yeah, and I hear you bring up the issue of survival, but even the newborn child cannot survive on its own.
It has a chance.
No,
to survive
on its own. On its own.
The mother doesn't have to be somebody else to take over.
Well, then,
but if you're an embryo, somebody else can't take over.
And hear me out.
The debate is it's not the same as a newborn child. That's a totally different thing. And a newborn child has the characteristics of a human.
Well, we know that.
Heart, lungs, arms, it has the character. An embryo before the 3rd month, that does not have the characteristics of a human. Nobody
but we have had cases of untimely births between 6 and 7 months that survived. I mean, there was intervention procedures.
I'm not talking about that time period. That those 6 to 10 months, the child has human characteristics.
I hear you.
And I don't, for most states, you can't get a volunteer after 3 months in most states. There are some exceptions, but there are a few. But in most states, you can't get an abortion, abortion just because you want one after 3 months.
Yeah, I believe that.
When you get later on down, it's usually a question of, well, either the child's going to survive or the mother's going to survive, or one of them are going to die.
Here is my brother.
And that's when you have those, like what you're talking about, that there is no question to the doctors that both can't survive.
Okay,
so it becomes a question which one, and they leave that up to the parents to decide, do you want to sacrifice your life or the child's life?
Well, here is my position that I'm stating to you and all those listening and viewing. My position is that because given the importance of the heart in a human being, and given the fact that the heart is the first organ that is formed, my position is
but
that
it doesn't start beating till 3 months.
My position is that once,
well,
we may want
timeline.
We may want to debate as to whether the heartbeat can be detected or not. My position.
This is what doctors and people who research, this is their job.
Well, there is a point where.
I've never looked. I don't see, I don't have that ability. So I have to go on what the people who do it on a daily basis say.
Hear me out, my brother. I believe that there are mitigating circumstances when an abortion can be justified. Other than that, I say that I believe that there are mitigating circumstances, factors, whereby an abortion can be justified. But aside from those mitigating circumstances, I believe that an abortion is murder.
Well, personally, that's the way even before 3 months, I personally would not recommend it to anybody. I don't think if I was in that position, I would do it. But that's my personal belief. I can't impose that with the information we know so far. I can't impose that on somebody else because I don't know.
No,
Doctors don't know a lot of stuff. And so here we're going to impose things that are going to affect people's lives when we're not certain. That's like the death penalty. I'm not in favor of the death penalty because I don't think we as humans, a lot of times, know for sure, that a person did something. So I'm like, okay, put them in jail for life. If it comes up that day, turns out that they didn't do it, they're still alive, and let them out. But I don't think we should kill them because we are not God. We don't know things that absolute in a lot of cases. Of course, there's some that we do. You know, the guy kills a person and goes running down the street with the, chainsaw in their hand, and 50 people see them. But there's many cases, and there have been cases where, like I just showed, it was in the news, a black man 50 years ago was accused of rape and murder, and he was at a hospital in the delivery room because his wife or girlfriend was delivering his first child, his first daughter. He had like 10 witnesses saying he was there. They still found him guilty and put him to death.
Let me tell you, my brother, I am not about imposing my values on anyone, but I'm going to tell you straight up, and to all those listening and viewing, if I have a daughter who is raped by some unknown character that I don't know anything about his background, where he came from, what he's been through, and he rapes my daughter, and my daughter ends up, for some reason, she didn't tell me, and she ends up being pregnant, my position is get rid of it. That's my personal position.
Right, and everybody should have their personal thing, but to impose it on somebody else is a totally different argument.
I understand that.
Some people apparently thought this man raped this woman. It was a white woman, of course, and they thought it to their heart, down to their soul, they believed he was guilty. But it turns out he wasn't.
All right.
So we can have our opinions, have our beliefs, but at some point in time, it's like, no, you shouldn't impose it on others.
And I agree.
You're not that person. You're not God.
I agree with you.
And humans have not come to the point of being able to be that certain.
I agree with you.
Like, to put the person in jail for life, that's okay. That's one thing. But to kill them, you can't reverse that. You can't undo that.
I agree with you. I am not for capital punishment. I am not in favor of that.
And that's the same thing when it comes to abortions. To me, I have my opinions, I have my beliefs, I know what I would do in that particular circumstance. But I don't feel comfortable imposing it on others.
All right.
At certain stages. Now, as I said, as the child gets older, 6 months, 10 months, that's a different ballgame. But 3 months, in 3 months, 1 in 5 pregnancies end in miscarriage. 20%.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
So dogs apparently aborted pregnancies.
All right. Well, I gotta hold you there because somebody else is trying to come in.
All right.
Thanks for calling and sharing. You stay strong. Keep the faith. Bye. All right. Lines are clear. 773-0390 and 773-0490. I know there were a couple of persons trying to get in. You can go ahead and call right now. Let's see. Somebody's calling. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome.
Good day, brother.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, good day to you. This is just very troubling to hear this conversation from this individual here. Very controversial individual, but confusing himself. He sounds confused to me. At one point, he's talking about the parents at that point down with abortion, and you can't determine what is life. I mean, just common sense. In the public school system, that is, my students don't have big problems. Obviously, he didn't take biology class or science class. Because conception, then there's the embryonic stage, and then there's the birth. Correct? All have to do with life. Correct?
Yep.
So therefore, from the time of conception, sex can alter a phantom sperm, which goes into the womb and starts to develop. That begins the process of the development of a child. So therefore, he's talking about the experts. The experts are the one who made atomic bomb that messed up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even after Japan has surrendered on all points. So, you know, we don't go by experts in certain issues. We go by common sense and morality. This is a serious situation here. I've heard that caller many times, and I put him in the category of delusional in many instances in conversations. You see what I'm saying? Especially this last one, he's delusional. Heard him talk about cannabis, heard him talk about all kinds of different subjects. And like I said, he sounds like a quack. Because when you're going to talk about nobody can determine where life begins, and I mean, what kind of foolishness is that? You see what I'm saying? You know, but we know that a woman, the difference between a woman and a man, fundamental difference. Women can bring children, men cannot. It's not a fundamental main difference between a woman and a man. One can bring children, deliver children, and a man cannot deliver children. Is not correct?
I don't have a problem defining who is a woman, you know. What the brother said to me is that the judge in question was right in her position because she was being nominated to be a judge. And so as a judge, for some reason, you're not allowed to bring your personal conviction into the mix, and clearly judges do allow some degree of subjectivity in their rulings. They're not completely objective. You listen to the statements that they issue to those who have been convicted. Sometimes they're very caustic when they address the convicted individual, the one who has been found guilty. So suddenly, judges do bring in a certain degree of personal conviction, if I may, into their rulings. You know.
Of course.
So I don't know how you can completely remove your personal experiences, your personal knowledge from the mix. I don't know how you do that, you know.
Which is in the same case like that when it comes to white kids. When the judge was swayed, his decision was swayed by public opinion. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So what I'm saying, I mean, this is the problem we have. We have an injustice system. It's not blindfold. It's not blinded. You know what I'm saying? So that's the situation we have. We've seen it from the time the inception of this country, where they had people who were declared 3/5 of a human. According to their definition, which of course was invalid.
Yep.
So, you know, they said that justice system, but it's a different thing, legality and morality. Slavery was legal, but not moral. Apartheid was legal, but not morally right. We go on and on. Discrimination, segregation, terror were all legal, but not morally right. Just because something is legal, make it right.
You know what bothers me? What bothers me, my brother, is that at this point in human development, why is it that, you know, Africans in particular, and those of us in the diaspora, why we haven't reached a point where we are in general agreement and understanding of the history, and that we take a unified position, a unified path forward, which is going to be mutually beneficial to one and all. We're not doing that. We still have a situation where some of us live in hell or under hellish conditions, and the rest of us, we're living, as they put it, high off the hog. Why is it that we can't have more of an equal playing field in the systems that are manned by people of our same background, history, development, ancestry, etc.? Why can't we reach common ground? I don't understand it. I don't see how we cannot. Why can't we feel the pain of our brothers and sisters and want to make a difference?
One of the main reasons for that is we have to realize that there's three types of slavery. There's chattel or physical slavery, and there's also mental and spiritual slavery. We have overcome chattel or physical slavery, but mental and spiritual slavery is still in existence. That is the problem. We don't have people of African descent join the Democratic Party. That's 100% mental slavery. You never find the European Jews join the Nazi Party. I never find the Palestinians worshiping in a synagogue. We don't put a plan because of our mental and spiritual enslavement to join these particular things of our enemy. That's why it's so difficult for us to come together as one. We have the numbers, you know.
Yeah.
You see the Juve, you see the parade,
Yep.
you see the concerts, etc. The cultural fair, village. We have the numbers, but the mind is enslaved. The mind is spiritually enslaved, it's not mentally enslaved. So until we can get that physical or mental and spiritual change off of the mind, the psyche of our people,
Yeah.
we're not making no progress. We had it, you know, we had it. The last time we did it was in 1955 when the people got together in St. Thomas and pressured the federal government to get rid of Archie Alexander, the appointed governor. You know what I'm saying? But when people drinking, buying water, paying for water, they look like Tamba do some Mardi. You know, people are mentally enslaved. That's something that people told. You know that the price cannot be changed at time because it was changed 40 years ago. But the authority, or not one authority, should have hooked up a connective situation where people buy filters wholesale until the pipes could be corrected and changed. But to pay for that kind of water, that's mental slavery. You have to protest, demand something better. We have to de-ess the situation, pollution the place. You know what I'm saying? Nobody stand up for that. People go on and on. So the problem is that because of the mental indoctrination that took place in schools, that took place in the church with the spiritual indoctrination. As a matter of fact, the majority of people go to churches that were run by the former slave masters. Can you imagine how people fell out those churches, like Lutheran Church, Anglican Church, Catholic Church, building those churches? How much Africans fell and died? There were no safety man, there were no safety rules at that time. You see what I'm saying?
But the sad thing is that today we have brothers standing in the pulpit in those very churches and they're not taking a position to say, well, you know what? I'm not gonna continue to push the narrative that those who went before me pushed, because now I have seen the light. So I want to share that light with my people. They're not doing that. They're continuing with the tradition.
That's what I'm saying. Let me show you a good example for a close with this last thing here. I'll be with get in. Let's look at 1 Timothy 3, which says that a person desires out of bishop, the person desires of the law. The first thing they say that the requirement is a bishop must then be blameless.
Yes.
The husband of one wife. The most popular church on the planet does not have that manifested in their church. They forbid to marry.
Yeah.
Right or wrong?
They forbid their priests to get married.
They're not priests. They're not, but I'm trying to show you, they're not qualified. They're impastors. To be a priest, you have to have a wife. That's what I'm trying to say. You're a priest before you become a bishop.
Yeah.
So the people attending that church are so spiritually enslaved, they don't realize that is a violation. That's how serious it is.
Yeah.
So this is the last thing. The people, how people perpetuate and celebrate all the major worldly holidays, but yet still they claim that the biblical holidays are nailed to the cross, except tithing, which is collection of money. What you find out rather ridiculous? I'm not calling somebody.
Yeah. Thanks for calling and sharing, my brother. You stay strong. Keep the faith. Wow. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to get something to share with you, but somehow my phone isn't allowing me to access this, folks. It's just unfortunate that I have my phone is with how you call it. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to skip that because I can't get it. I can't put it up because of internet issues. But anyway, to come back to what I was saying, the last brother who spoke with me there, he's so on point. And this is what I've been saying all along for the morning. Let's see what this caller has to say. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Yes.
Don't you know women who can't have children who are barren?
Yes, women are barren sometimes, but that doesn't mean that they don't have all the necessary attributes to be women. That's why in some instances in biblical times, the Creator Most High opened up their womb so they could have children.
That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use that as your definition of a woman,
mm-hmm.
which your last caller was using.
I think what the caller was saying is that by definition, we have been given certain parameters, whether through our educational system or what have you, so that by and large, we can make a determination that this person is a woman and that person is a man.
When modern science is showing us and has shown us repeatedly that those things are not set in stone.
Mm-hmm.
It's far more complicated. We're trying to simplify something that is extremely complicated.
Right.
And we're just refusing to accept the fact that it's not as simple as we may have first thought when we were 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's more scientific information that's irrefutable.
Mm-hmm.
And even, again, you don't even have to be a scientist to know that there are women who can't have babies.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't use that as the definition of a woman.
Let me just give you a word of caution, and it goes to all of us, myself included. There are several recent cases of people who got married to individuals and found out that they had been deceived because of the advancements we have in technology, so that bodies were altered. There was hormone replacement therapy done, and so a guy thought that he was marrying a woman, but he was actually marrying a trans, and that ended up in a disaster where somebody got killed.
When I was 18 years old, 20 years old, I thought about that.
Uh-huh.
Before all this advancement in plastic surgery and stuff, and I was telling my friends, what would you do if you married somebody and the things progressed to the point of sex change, progressed to the point that you couldn't tell by looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 years later, everything's going fine, this is the perfect person for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 5 years later, you find out that they were born
a
man.
Okay, but now that's
would you leave them or would you stay with them? Because this is the person for you. Everything's going fine. You haven't run into anybody better for you than this person.
Mm-hmm.
But now you found out that they were a man.
Yeah, and that situation is still. That situation is.
So that's something I thought.
Okay, that situation.
Many decades ago.
All right, I've reached my time. I'm up on the hour, so we got to go. Thanks for calling and sharing. I just want to say to those of you listening that this situation there is rooted in deception.
Right.
And that person is not a true woman. But a true woman is a woman. And generally, we can know who is a woman as opposed to who is a man. Having said that, folks, my time is up. You stay safe, be blessed, give thanks and praises unto the Most High. Don't forget my program on Friday nights with the young people starting at 7. It's called Choices. We'll reconnect then. Bye.